In a prosperous dynasty full of schemes and secrets, she, Nuit Ni, the daughter of a famous general, is forced to enter the palace as a consort. But her heart already belongs to Hao Thien, a young general who shared her childhood memories. Amidst the grandeur of the palace, power struggles, and the chaos of war, will their love survive? Can Nuit Ni protect her heart? And will Hao Thien find her in a world full of danger? Join us in the story, When the Moon Speaks for the Heart, to follow their journey through destiny, love, and courage. If you love epic historical romances filled with passion and intrigue, don't forget to subscribe, follow so you won't miss the next chapters. Every like and subscription helps us bring more enchanting stories to life. The peach forest behind the general's house glowed under the spring sunlight. Petals drifting in the breeze. Nuit Ni ran joyfully, her clear laughter mingling with the chirping of birds. Hao Thien followed closely, his eyes shining with youthful delight. Hao Thien, you always try to run ahead. Nuit Ni pouted, touching his shoulder. I've never lost to you, Nuit Ni, he said with a warm smile. They climbed mountains, swam across the small stream, practiced martial arts, and played games together. Every shared adventure deepened their friendship and trust. Under the radiant peach trees, Nuit Ni looked into Hao Thien's eyes. We will always protect each other. No matter what happens in the future, right? Hao Thien held her hand firmly, his gaze unwavering. No one can separate us, Nuit Ni. Those innocent days, in the sunlight and breeze of the peach forest, would become treasured memories, before destiny brought forth its harsh trials. The next day, Nuit Ni and Hao Thien met by the small stream, where water gurgled over smooth stones. The quiet space was filled only with the sound of water and the wind rustling the peach blossoms. Tomorrow, I have to leave, Nuit Ni whispered, tears welling in her eyes. Hao Thien remained silent, holding her hand, his gaze firm. No matter what happens, I will protect you. No one can separate us. Nuit Ni leaned on his shoulder, feeling the calm rhythm of his heartbeat. They remained silent, letting time seem to stand still. They shared a wordless promise, though they might be apart, their hearts would always seek each other. Above them, a few petals drifted down from the peach trees, as if witnessing a sacred vow. Nuit Ni knew this moment would become the most precious memory of her youth. One morning, a golden letter arrived at the general's house. Nuit Ni trembled as she opened it and read the content. She was to enter the palace as a consort of Emperor Lac Duang. Hao Thien stood beside her, eyes filled with worry. You really have to go? Nuit Ni nodded gently, hiding her fear. Yes, but I will never forget our promise, she replied. They remained silent for a long moment, with only the wind rustling through the peach forest and the gentle stream flowing nearby. In their hearts, the weight of parting was heavy, yet their feelings remained steadfast. Before entering the palace, Nuit Ni quietly wandered through the peach forest. Watching the petals fall, she whispered to herself, even inside the palace, my heart belongs to Hao Thien. I must be strong. Hao Thien held her hand tightly one last time, until we meet again. Nuit Ni, I will wait for you. The next morning, Nuit Ni donned a vivid red gown and stepped through the grand palace gates. White stone pillars and golden-tiled roofs glistened under the sunlight, while other consorts looked at her with curiosity and, at times, veiled hostility. Each step made her heart race. The palace was vast and unfamiliar, and she felt the imposing power of Emperor Lac Duang, who sat on his throne, his cold gaze scrutinizing her every movement. One consort whispered, be careful, not everyone here is kind. Nuit Ni took a deep breath, reminding herself to stay strong. Fear mixed with curiosity sharpened her senses. Her heart still belonged to Hao Thien, a constant reminder to keep her promise even within the palace walls. Kneeling before the emperor, she bowed gracefully, her gaze both determined and gentle. Lac Duang's first look was neither hostile nor fully kind. In that moment, she realized that her new life, full of challenges, had just begun. Nuit Ni walked through the grand corridors of the palace, feeling every gaze following her. Emperor Lac Duang remained seated on the throne, his cold stare making her heart tighten. At lunch, she happened to cross paths with the emperor in the main hall. Lac Duang said nothing, only watching her every movement, every expression. Nuit Ni lowered her head, reminding herself, "I must not be afraid. I must stay strong." A consort whispered in her ear, "The emperor is watching you, be careful with every action." She realized that in the palace, intelligence was as important as beauty. Every glance and word could carry danger. Yet in Nuit Ne's heart, the image of Halthine remained vivid, giving her courage. Returning to her chamber, she gazed out the window, where a few peach petals still lingered, reminding her of her childhood and the promise made to Halthine. In her first days within the palace, Nuit Ne realized that not only the emperor was watching her, but the other consorts were full of schemes as well. Lady Feng Dung, who had held the emperor's favor for many years, looked at her with suspicion and veiled threat. "This girl seems almost too perfect. I cannot let her easily capture the emperor's heart," Feng Dung whispered to another consort. Nuit Ne learned to observe carefully, paying attention to every gesture and word. She knew that in the palace, intelligence was as important as beauty. One wrong word or careless glance could bring trouble. That evening, she sat quietly in her chamber, gazing at the peach blossoms outside the window. In her heart, the image of Halthine remained vivid, reminding her to uphold her promise. Even as palace intrigues grew more cunning, her heart remained steadfast. Day by day, Nuit Ne found ways to communicate with Halthine. Despite the vast distance of the palace and layers of guards, a small letter, a signal from a falling peach blossom, or whispered messages became the threads connecting their hearts. One night, under the full moon, Nuit Ne placed a letter beneath a peach tree near the palace. Halthine was already waiting, quietly retrieving the letter with a smile. A single glance conveyed everything between them without words. "You remain as strong as ever, even in the palace," Halthine said, his eyes full of pride. Nuit Ne nodded, feeling warmth in her heart. These secret moments were a comfort amid long days apart, a testament to the steadfast love they had promised each other since childhood. Yet, a lingering worry remained in her heart. If discovered, the consequences would be severe. This fear only made her more cautious, deepening the bond between them. Nuit Ne gradually realized that the palace was not only a place of power and beauty, but also a network full of intrigue. Every consort sought advantage, every word and gesture could become a weapon. One afternoon, Lady Feng Dung quietly arranged for other consorts to watch Nuit Ne. They followed her every step, every glance, searching for a mistake to exploit. Nuit Ne remained unshaken. She observed silently, learning to read people, understanding that in the palace, intelligence was even more important than beauty. Every action, every word required caution, and she was determined not to be taken advantage of. Yet, the image of Halthine remained her strongest motivation. Whenever tired or fearful, she closed her eyes and remembered the moments by the stream and in the peach forest, where their love and promise had begun. In her heart, Nuit Ne knew that even in a palace full of danger, she would never lose herself or the heart she had pledged to Halthine. One morning, while Nuit Ne was practicing court etiquette in the grand hall, another consort secretly set a trap. She placed a tampered teacup, causing Nuit Ne to almost slip and disrupt her ceremonial attire. The hall fell silent, some consorts smirking, while Emperor Lac Duang's cold gaze observed everything. Nuit Ne took a deep breath, standing tall with no sign of fear. In her heart, she reminded herself, "This is only the first difficulty. I must be more cautious, wiser, and still keep my heart true." That evening, she quietly recorded every detail of the day, analyzing the behavior of the consorts and potential threats. This was her first lesson in survival within the palace. Intelligence, patience, and decisiveness were the strongest weapons. Yet, looking out the window, the falling peach blossoms reminded her of Halthine, and his smile strengthened her resolve like never before. Far from the grand palace, Halthine led his troops to the border. Smoke and fire clouded the sky, the clash of swords echoing repeatedly. In his heart, the image of Nuit Ne always appeared, giving him strength to fight. A letter from Nuit Ne was secretly delivered to the camp, reminding him to take care and not let longing cloud his judgment. Halthine held the letter, eyes tense but resolute. "I will protect her, even if I must give my life," he vowed to himself. Within the palace, Nuit Ne received news of the battle, her heart tightening, yet she did not cry. She quietly prepared for the next intrigues. knowing that love and determination would help him overcome any danger. Days and nights passed, with battlefield rain and fluttering banners. But their hearts remained connected, steadfast in the promise made since childhood. While Hao Thien fought at the border, Nuit Ni received secret letters from trusted palace attendants. News of new intrigues, challenges from Lady Feng Deng, kept her constantly on alert. One day, a covert message informed her that Feng Deng was plotting against her, instructing certain officials to mislead the emperor. Nuit Ni's heart tightened, but she did not panic. She knew she had to use intelligence and wisdom to respond. Sitting by the window overlooking the peach garden, she sent a small letter to Hao Thien, detailing the situation and encouraging him to stay strong on the battlefield. Despite the distance, their hearts remained connected, and information from the palace helped Hao Thien understand the situation at home, strengthening his resolve to protect her. With each passing day, Nuit Ni grew stronger, learning to both protect herself and keep her love alive. Fear gradually gave way to intelligence and determination. On a bright moonlit night, Nuit Ni quietly left her chamber, following a secret passage that a trusted consort had shown her. The meeting place was beneath a peach tree outside the palace walls, known only to the two of them. Hao Thien was already waiting, his strong figure filled with worry. When he saw her, he took Nuit Ni's hand, as if to convey all his strength and calmness. "I've worried so much for you," Hao Thien whispered. "I'm fine, as long as I see you. It's enough," Nuit Ni replied, a gentle smile on her lips. They exchanged a few whispered messages about the battle and palace intrigues. Every moment together was precious, a peaceful refuge amid the storms outside. Yet both understood, this meeting was secret, and a single mistake could endanger them. Still, their love and the promise from childhood made it impossible to be apart. One morning, while Nuit Ni was preparing for court ceremonies, she received news from a loyal consort. Lady Feng Deng had arranged a major plot to undermine her in front of the emperor. Her heart raced, but Nuit Ni quickly regained composure. She carefully observed every step and gaze around her, preparing to react if the scheme was revealed. At noon, in the grand hall, Feng Deng made her move. A cleverly spoken remark aimed to discredit Nuit Ni before the emperor, creating a tense atmosphere. Yet Nuit Ni merely smiled, responding calmly, both modestly and wisely. Emperor Lac Duang furrowed his brow, his gaze following Nuit Ni closely. In that look, she felt he was evaluating both her intelligence and her composure. That evening, Nuit Ni quietly recorded every detail, analyzing the plot and preparing strategies to counter it. She knew that only through determination and wisdom could she earn the emperor's respect, protect her love, and uphold the promise to Hao Thien. On a bright moonlit night, Nuit Ni stood by the window, looking out at the peach garden. Moonlight shone on the falling petals, reminding her of Hao Thien and the promises of their childhood. That love became her strength, helping her face all the palace intrigues. Meanwhile, Hao Thien continued fighting at the border. The latest letter from Nuit Ni had reached him, reminding him to stay focused and not let longing distract him from the battle. He clenched the letter, eyes determined, no matter the distance and hardships. "Our hearts will always be together." The combination of intelligence and love allowed Nuit Ni to remain calm in the face of Lady Feng Deng's schemes. She smiled, knowing that true power does not come only from swords or authority, but from a steadfast heart and sincere love. That night, they both seemed to gaze at the moon together. Despite the distance, they knew that, no matter the storms ahead, their hearts could never be separated. One morning, Emperor Lac Duang summoned the consorts to the grand hall. Nuit Ni appeared, calm and confident, while Feng Deng attempted to defame her in front of the emperor. However, all of Feng Deng's schemes were quickly exposed thanks to Nuit Ni's intelligence and tact. She guided the conversation skillfully, both modestly and clearly, making the emperor take notice of her integrity and wisdom. Feng Deng was flustered, unable to respond. The emperor's stern gaze fell upon her, and the hall fell silent. Nuit Ni bowed, grateful for the guidance from her childhood and the love of Hao Thien. Determination and intelligence had helped her overcome the first trial in the palace, consolidating her position and continuing to protect her love for Hao Thien. That evening, she wrote a letter to Hao Thien, recounting the events, and sent it with the belief that Despite the distance, love and wisdom would always connect their hearts. At the border, heavy rain and cold wind made the battlefield more brutal than ever. Halthene led his troops forward, facing the vast enemy army. The clash of swords, soldiers' shouts, and the sound of rain created a chaotic scene. In his hand, the letter from Nuit Ni remained intact. Every time he read it, his heart strengthened. The image of Nuit Ni, their childhood promise, and the belief that she was safe in the palace became the power that drove him to fight with all his might. Amid the rain, Halthene commanded his soldiers, combining clever tactics with courage, gradually gaining the upper hand. Despite exhaustion and the surrounding dangers, his eyes shone with determination to protect the one he loved. At the same time, Nuit Ni in the palace received news of the battle. Her heart ached, but she also felt immense pride. She knew that love, trust, and their combined wisdom would help them weather the storm, no matter how fierce the battle or palace intrigues became. After many days of intense fighting, Halthene and his soldiers won the battle at the border. The good news quickly reached the palace. Nuit Ni, upon hearing the news, felt her heart burst with happiness. Yet her smile was tinged with worry. Meanwhile, Lady Feng Deng did not abandon her schemes. She continued to sabotage, sending false reports to make the emperor suspicious of Nuit Ni. The danger within the palace had not diminished. Nuit Ni, quick-witted, prepared evidence and strategies to expose Feng Deng if her plot was discovered. She knew that a combination of intelligence, determination, and love would help her overcome any peril. That evening, Halthene received a letter from Nuit Ni, learning about all the palace intrigues. He was both overjoyed by the victory and worried for her, but their love and mutual trust strengthened their resolve. They silently vowed, whether on the battlefield or within the treacherous palace, their hearts would always be together, never to part. One day, Emperor Lac Duang decided to test Nuit Ni's integrity and intelligence before the entire court. This was the final trial to determine her place in the palace and the emperor's trust. Lady Feng Deng secretly prepared, hoping once again to discredit Nuit Ni. She arranged a series of difficult questions, combined with fabricated scenarios to trap her. But Nuit Ni remained calm, responding intelligently, both modestly and wisely. Every answer showcased her knowledge, courage, and superior intellect, earning the admiration of all the consorts and officials. Emperor Lac Duang nodded, his gaze softening, and for the first time, he offered a rare smile to Nuit Ni. She had passed the final trial, proving that intelligence, determination, and a sincere heart were the greatest powers in the palace. That evening, Nuit Ni wrote a letter to Halthene, recounting the events and sending her trust, no matter how harsh the trials. Love and wisdom would always guide them. After months of separation, the war ended, and Halthene returned from the border. Nuit Ni stood at the palace gate, her heart fluttering at the familiar figure. They ran to each other, ignoring all rituals and surroundings. In that moment, only love, happiness, and peace existed. They embraced tightly, as if making up for all the longing and trials endured. Emperor Lac Duang watched from afar, his gaze both stern and gentle. He recognized Nuit Ni's sincere love and steadfastness, understanding the bond between the two. Nuit Ni and Halthene exchanged a new promise: no matter what challenges life brings, they will always be together, sharing joys and sorrows, and protecting each other's hearts. That night, beneath the moonlight and falling peach blossoms, they sat together, for the first time truly feeling the peace after the storm. Time passed, and the palace became peaceful after months of turmoil. Halthene and Nuit Ni were together, with no distance and no fear. Their love had overcome war, palace intrigues, and trials, becoming strong and profound. Nuit Ni gained the emperor's absolute trust, becoming a respected consort in the palace, while keeping her heart serene, untouched by jealousy or scheming. They watched the falling peach blossoms under the moonlight, talking about the days gone by and dreams of the future. Simple yet complete happiness filled their hearts. In the hearts of Nuit Ni and Halthene, the childhood promise had come true. No matter how the world changed, they would always be together, facing all storms, and living a full and happy life side by side. The journey of Nuit Ni and Halthene has come to an end, but their love and wisdom will forever live in your heart. If you enjoy historical romance stories full of love, war, and palace intrigue. Subscribe to Truyan Ingon Tin Hay, and click the notification bell so you won't miss any new chapters. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Heart.